asked me to record it. So hello, everybody.
Oh, sure.
I'm so glad. We are nearly 40 people. That's wonderful.
Wow.
Nancy, can you answer the chat too?
I will answer the chat, and then I will mute everybody. And then if people want to talk, then they can unmute themselves. Would that be all right?
Yeah.
And I'll take care of the chat room.
That's wonderful. So Nancy offered herself to be my co-host, and I'm really glad. I'm going to put up the PowerPoint for a second. Let me just go to the very beginning. You know, all the things we have to say due to the European law that you are not allowed to record it, although you allowed it me, and you will find it on the YouTube later. It is an experimental webinar, so I don't want you to think that's highly scientific. We are talking about treatments with kids. And again, I want to thank you for being here. It's really great. And I have a special guest today. Glenda, can you put on your microphone and say hi?
Hello, I'm Glenda from Ecuador.
Yeah, Glenda is a friend and trainer in Ecuador. And when I told her about that, she was immediately saying to me, can I help you something? And last time she couldn't attend, but this time I will use her as a child. And she gave a wonderful webinar a week ago in Spain. And I had a webinar with my Paraguayan Brainspotters yesterday, and I saw parts of your webinar, Glenda, and it's also for all those who speak Spanish. You can look it up at Mario Salvador's YouTube channel. And but I've heard a lot of the content yesterday from my students in Paraguay, so they told me what they took with them from the webinar, and I asked Glenda this morning if she could give us some 5 minutes about resourcing, because they were so fascinated by your resourcing ideas. I want to share something organizational with you. I have this homepage, I'm managing this homepage on Brainspotting Kids. And last time somebody wrote me if I couldn't get a mail list from all the Brainspotters who are interested in Brainspotting treatments with kids and adolescents, and I thought her idea to be wonderful and made up a subscription possibility for you. So if you go to this homepage after the webinar today, you can subscribe, and I'm not going to send out many newsletters, maybe twice a year, if I have new things going on, also with Marta Jacobi, who can't attend today because she's also very busy with her online training. And we will feed you just with some basic information if there's something really interesting new. But it's lovely to have that, and maybe you can also share it with your friends that they can just subscribe. And then we have one list for all interested Brainspotters for kids and adolescents. So this is on this page. And I decided that so many people asked me that I will do an online 3-day training. The kids training were always for 2 days. With David's support, I enhanced the 3rd day now, in which I talk about part work and also the child in me when you work with grown-ups. So this will be in June, from June 19th to 21st. And Lisa's husband, Lisa Larson, is an American trainer in California, and her husband and Lisa asked me to do a training in Los Angeles next November, and they are also, I asked her husband if he could organize me the training. So here you have the link, the Pacific Trauma Center, if you're interested. What I was thinking today, before we go like last time into questions and Q&A, I wanted to point out something what I really see very, very often now in the existential crisis. And you can see the PowerPoint here. I tried to put it up in a way to explain, because I see that so often with kids, and I thought I want to point it out and even do a short demo with Glenda about it after that. So we were just before, when we started, we were talking with one man from Malaysia, what I did the last time with the bear. And I was explaining to him, when kids are really very, very young, so around 3 years, 4 years, they are still living in their magic thinking world. So all what they have a magic thinking world, and they can't imagine at that time that this is not real. They have no idea. So all they think is true, and all the stories they hear are real for them. So, and then the older they get, and today I spend, in the beginning, I wanted to spend the bow for the kids until 12, more or less. The older they get, the more logical they are becoming, logical thinking, and the more they are understanding what's going on in the world. But they still, until 8, 9 years, they still know. And I put it under however you call it, because it's there. They feel their fantasy is still true, their fantasy life. So even when you tell them with 5, Santa Claus is not real, they might tell you, but I've seen him. So for them, it's still reality. And the older they get, the more get into reality thinking. And when they are 12, they actually have developed the thinking of a grown-up person. So what I put here are 2 pictures. I think most of you might know the story of Peter Pan, where Peter doesn't want to grow up and takes 2 children with him to his wonderland. And on the other hand, when they are 12, and we talk about the current situation, kids understand exactly what's going on in this existential crisis. Now, if we meet children in this age now, especially in the treatment of Brainspotting treatment now, it's so important that we understand that they have this huge difference thinking, and that we are even more in the principle of uncertainty, going with them, being with them, and understanding wherever it takes them. So what I'm hearing a lot during the processes now is like using the fantasy world as a resource to accept the reality. And I think it's really, really important, and that's why I wanted to share with you, to stay in the tail of the comet of the kids in this age and just follow them. For example, I had this girl yesterday, and she has, they have some family issues, and she was really, during the process, on the one hand, understanding and doing a deep process what's going on, but on the other hand, she had her way of healing herself. So it was like working on the resource, which was her fantasy, and accepting slowly the reality. But having her fantasy helped her so much to accept the here and now, what's going on in the existential crisis. And this is fascinating in this age between 4, 5, and 9, 10. And I just wanted to point that out. And we thought with Glenda, we might do a short demo to it. So I'm taking this away. Just a second. So what we can do now is, if you all turn off your videos, just for the demo, I would love you to come back afterwards. Then you will only see Glenda and me on the screen. Wow. So we are getting less. Wait, Nancy, you have to put your audio.
Oh, I have to unmute myself. Your voice will coming in and out. So I'm just wondering if you wear earbuds, if that makes any difference to maybe give it a try.
Is
See
it
what
better
happens.
like that?
I don't know. I don't.
Can you hear me
Yeah.
now?
Yeah. Good.
Over here, I do hear less crackling right there, if that's maybe what you were speaking of, Nancy.
Yes.
A crackling in and out. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I hope it works better like that. Otherwise,
Yes.
just wait a second. Give me 1 second. I'm turning off those loudspeakers. Let me have a try. If I turn to the other loudspeaker.
Yeah. If you wear earbuds, then your voice goes directly into the microphone by your mouth. It might have less echoing.
How do you hear now?
Still a little bit echoing, but it's not crackling anymore. So.
Okay, good. Then I stay with the loudspeakers from the computer.
Okay, all right.
It might have been the. Thank you for telling me that.
So you want everybody to turn off the video then, their own video?
Yeah.
Okay.
César, tienes que apagar el video. Good. So we just have now, Glenda. We made you to a. How old are you?
I am 7 years old.
Yeah, continue.
My grandfather is sick with COVID. I haven't been able to see him. I really would love to see him. And yeah.
And your mom just told me some things about what is going on at home now. Can you remember what she told us? What she would like to have changed?
I just miss Grandpa.
Sorry?
I just miss Grandpa.
You miss Grandpa.
I wish I could see him. He's a lot of fun.
He's a lot of fun. Does he normally live with you?
He comes and visits every day. Well, he used to. Now he doesn't. Because he's sick and we can't see him. That's what Mom told me, that we can't see him because he's contagious.
That's a difficult word, isn't it? Do you know what
but
it
I think it means, I think what Mom told me is that if we go see him, we might get sick too. And yeah. But my brother, my friend's grandfather died of this thing. And I'm afraid my grandpa is going to die too.
Okay. So you don't miss him only, you are also afraid. Can you, when you tell me that, is it now at home when you're afraid and when you miss your grandfather, are you different than before?
I'm very sad.
Yeah,
and
very sad.
Yeah.
Okay.
And because I don't know if I'm gonna see him. I don't know when I can see him. I just miss him.
Just wait a second. I want to show you something. Right here. I think I didn't show you that before. So this is how children feel. So what color would you say you feel when you think about your grandfather?
Blue.
Blue down here? So really, really sad. Now you know that you came here because I should help you.
My mommy told me that you're gonna help me feel better.
Where do you think you can go if I can help you today? Let me tell you one more thing. I'm not able to help your grandfather. I can only hope with you that he gets better pretty soon. And I can tell you that you're really doing a good job not visiting him. But due to that circumstance, where do you think you can come if I help you today? Which color?
Maybe the red or the green.
The green on the bottom or
that one.
So somewhere in between here. How does this feel for you when I tell you I can't help your grandfather?
I want to cry.
So you are really here, aren't you? Well, the most important thing is that I can help you, because maybe it makes your grandfather happy too if you're more here. I think he likes you a lot.
He does. I like him too.
You like him too. Okay. So let me try something with you. You said you are sad, very sad, and you would like to be a little bit more happy. So how would you say your being sad looks like?
Like this.
I have something to paint on. And I have a red color for today. So what could I paint on this little sheet for your sadness?
For my sadness, a bird. I like birds.
Okay. Yeah. Do you allow me to paint very, very simple, because I'm not a good painter?
Okay.
Look what I'm doing. I'm making a face. And I'm doing can you see that this is a bird flying?
It's a very silly bear. I like it.
Can you understand that this is a bird?
Yes.
Good.
Yes. The wings and.
Yeah, the wings, exactly. That's the word. I didn't know the word wings for the moment. Glenda, before we use the painting I'm doing here, I made it a little bit thicker now. Let me ask you, where do you feel in your body when you're very sad? Is there a place where you can feel the sadness?
In my head.
In your head. And what is your head doing?
I can't think when I'm really sad.
You can't think. Okay. Do you know what I would like to know? I would love to know now where the bird is flying. When you feel your head and when you're really sad. Is it flying more over here? Or is it flying more in the middle? Or is it flying more over here?
There.
There? You know what? Just observe the little bird flying and tell me where exactly you feel it. I could see it here. Do you have an idea where exactly it was?
Over here.
Can you say stop?
Stop.
Okay. And is it more to the earth? Or is she flying more into the sky?
Do I have to feel better or worse?
Worse.
Worse. Down. Clear. Stop.
Here?
Mm.
I will try to hold it here. I might move it because I just have it in my hand, but it's a flying bird. Uh-huh. Let's see what's happening to this bird, Glenda, when she's there.
I wish I was a bird.
What could you do if you were a bird?
I'll be the grandpa.
You would sit on his window. And what would you do then?
I would tell him that I love him.
Can you tell him that now?
Tell my grandpa that I love him. I love you, Grandpa.
And do you think when we finish this session today, there's a way you can tell him?
My mommy told me that if he dies, he's going to be in the clouds. So maybe I can visit with my bird in the clouds too.
That's a good idea. So your mom is also afraid that he will die. So you are all afraid. Can you, when you told me that you would be able to tell him that you love him, can you call him now on the telephone, or can he not talk?
He can't talk. Mommy told me that I could write a letter to him. Maybe he can read it later.
Does this help?
I can send it with my bird.
Okay. That seems to make you feel better. Let's see what the bird is still feeling on her flight.
The bird feels free, light.
Can I ask you something very, very difficult? Glenda, when you are 7 now, and you are very, very sad at the moment, have you been sad before in your life already? So it's the first time. So let's work with this feeling free. Can you feel like the bird here, a little bit free? What can you do when you feel free?
I can play.
Okay.
I can imagine that I am the bird and go visit Grandpa.
That's a good idea. That's a great idea.
I can write letters to Grandpa.
That's also a great idea.
And I can also talk to Mom and Dad and my friends.
Uh-huh.
We've been having Zoom meetings with them too, with my friends.
You have had Zoom weekends with 7 years.
Yes,
Oh,
because we're not going to school.
yeah, that's wonderful. Okay. You know, my kids are much older, but they have no Zoom weekends. I will tell them. I think that's a great idea.
That was Mom's idea.
Uh-huh.
I thought you told her to do that.
No. I'm just looking for my work. Okay, but you have a lot of ideas. Do you have any other idea what you can do when you feel free?
I can cry.
Mm-hmm. You can cry.
Mm-hmm.
Do you normally not cry?
I don't want to cry.
Mm-hmm. Does it help you when I tell you it's good to cry?
A little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I just tell you, when you're so sad because of your grandpa, it's really good to cry. Does somebody help you when you cry?
My mom and my dad,
Mm-hmm.
they come in and they sit next to me.
Mm-hmm.
But they are also very sad.
But sometimes it's good to be sad together. Mm-hmm. So how do you feel now? How is your head?
A little bit like the bird.
Let me come back to this picture. Where do you think you are now?
The green.
The green up here or the green down there?
The one up there.
Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what, Glenda, we have had a lot of ideas now. What you can do to feel better. Just a second. So I think we might take this bird now. I would like to give it to you, but I can't give it to you. Maybe, you know what? I send you a WhatsApp message later. Oh, you have one. Wonderful. So we both
My mommy told me that you told her to have some things here, and I brought some of my favorite toys.
Oh, good. That's wonderful. Stay with this one. This is like a bird. Yeah? And maybe you hold it exactly where I have this bird, so I can give this bird back.
Okay.
Can you see?
Uh-huh.
And do you still feel better?
Uh-huh.
So let's find out what you said. Write a letter.
Mm-hmm.
What else did you say? What would help you?
Play.
Play. Yeah.
Talk to my friends.
Mm-hmm. You said you could play to be a bird and sit on the window of your grandfather.
Uh-huh.
I think that's a wonderful game. Mm-hmm. Talk to your friends. Zoom friend sessions. And can you? It's the last thing you said?
I can't remember.
Cry together with mommy and daddy. Being sad together. If it's allow yourself to be sad together. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So if you hold up your bird or your chicken, is it a chicken? Can you remember what you can do to feel better, Glenda?
I can hold him here.
And he might even whisper in your ear if you are very, very sad. What you can do to feel a little bit better.
Oh, and he can touch my head when it hurts.
Oh, that's a nice idea. And he can make up stories with you how to visit your grandfather.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And we can draw them.
Exactly. And you could send me a photo.
Yes, I will.
Okay.
I'll ask mommy to help me.
Uh-huh. Do you think you're happy enough that we can get your mommy inside now?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you, Moni.
That was so cute to work with you. I really liked it.
Thank you.
And maybe sometimes you can take me on your journey and I will sit with you on the window to your grandfather.
Yeah, that will be great.
Yeah. So let's ask the rest that they put on their videos again. This was wonderful.
I'm gonna get a Kleenex and get out of the world, okay? I'll be right back.
Wait for you. Nancy, do I have to do anything? Wait, you need to put on your audio.
I keep forgetting. Yes, yes. You don't have to do anything. There's no cast to look after. And the ones who haven't turned on their video and would like to, and it's the time to do so.
I couldn't understand everything now. Yeah, that's great. So thank you, Glenda.
Thank you, Moni. Now I'm back to my age.
How old are you?
I'm not telling.
Let's ask the question different. When is your real birthday?
August 8th. And I'm definitely not 7.
7 plus. Good. That's wonderful. Thank you for watching that. And Glenda, maybe you talk about what you felt with Brainspotting, just being said, living a trauma. You were an excellent child.
Thank you. Give me a second. My iPad is telling me that it's about to die from battery. Just sorry.
And in the meantime, there's a question, Monica, on how to do this with a nonverbal client.
That's a good question.
Okay, perfect.
Just a second, Glenda, there was one question. If we have a non-verbal client, it would be important to answer this question. It would be important to know if the client understands me or not. So if they don't understand me, I might have used much more the post-its and also of these smileys, and might have needed a parent to be present to explain the feelings the child would have. If the child would understand me, I would have maybe acted quite the same, proposing a lot. Like when you are sad, where do you feel it? Do you feel it up here, or is it in your arms? I would have maybe stood up and asked them, or in the stomach. So if they just have no language, but they have the understanding, I would talk much more with arms and legs. Actually, online, I would move back so that they could see me bigger and I could use more space for sign language. And I would definitely draw much more on little sheets, which I would then stick on my computer to have them again if I need them. That would be my answer. Now I would like to come to you, Glenda. Tell the audience how you felt during the Brainspotting, actually.
As the 7-year-old child, I felt you close, like the relationship. I felt what I know, the dual attunement, right? I felt you there. That was really, really nice. I felt that you were listening to me and that you were not telling me what to do like my parents would do, like you were just there. That was very important. you were really interested in what was going on with me, rather than telling me, like how I felt, or and it really felt good to find this resource with the bird, and then like with that go and work on the issues that I had. It was really, really nice.
Technically, I have one question, because one of the, if we go back to Brainspotting, one of the most important things are to tell the kids that we can't, well, things are like they are, to accept the reality. If we can't change the trauma. The trauma is there. And I said to you that I would not be able to make your grandfather healthy. Technically, I think this is one of the most important things when you work with kids. How did you feel when I told you that I can't make your grandfather healthy? Because this was exactly, just to mention what I told you in the beginning, reality and fantasy, but there's a reality. And we can only protect them to a certain circumstance. And well, this child was really well educated and well informed by their parents that grandfather might die. So how did you feel when I told you that, and then took out this sheet? This was spontaneous. Honestly, I didn't plan that. To ask you where you would come, knowing that your grandfather is really ill.
I can't describe it, but what my body felt was that it was real, right? It's like when you're expecting the bad news, right? And you're like expecting the tiger to bite, and you're like, well, the tiger might definitely bite, but what are we going to do with that? So it was more of that feeling, right? It's like, okay, so this is happening, right? So that really made me feel sad as a child, and that's why I went like all the way down.
Which was a good thing for the Brainspotting process, because what you also said is that you felt that I was with you. And this is to the moment where I came to you. I'm not working with your grandfather. I wanted to work with you and wanted to see where are you and where can you come. And to a certain circumstance, I took out the trauma, the ill grandfather, to work with your feelings. Just to explain this to the audience, not putting the trauma away, but focusing on your feelings to this real situation.
And I think that for me, it also has to do with attachment, right? Like attachment and trauma, and having somebody's hand while you like really being there with you. And that's how I felt when I was playing the role, like, okay, this is horrible, but I have mom, I have dad, and I have you, right? So.
And this was, by the way, a wonderful resource. When I'm crying, they sit on my bed. This was, that was so cute. Is there anything else you would like to share?
Not right now. Maybe if people have questions or something, that would.
I also wanted to open up here for questions.
Yeah, there's a question saying, how did you choose the bird as the image that you drew?
Can you say that again a little bit closer to the microphone?
How do you choose the bird? How did you choose to draw the bird? That's Regina asked that. The client identified that bird.
I asked her if she can think about something that looks like something that would be like being sad. And then I took out the empty sheet and said, I have once a red color to paint it on it. What should I paint on it? So the important thing is she could have said everything to leave it open.
The ones who want to ask questions can unmute yourself so you can ask directly to Monika.
Yes, you should just ask directly.
I have a question, but I have 3 kids in the background, so I apologize. What if the client, because I have some clients that have a little bit more of a trauma history, is struggling to connect with their body, and so they're unable to identify where that sensation is in their body? How do you guide them in that way when there's this disconnect between the mind and body?
And I like to ask them, it depends on the age, but I like to ask them, where does the symptom live in your body? If it has a place in your body, do you have an idea where it sits or where it is, if they don't connect? And I also show them, like I showed you before, sometimes if they can't connect, I ask them, do you feel it more here or more here or more in your arms? And then I go down to the stomach and to the legs and to the knees. Sometimes the less language and the less imagination kids have, the more I offer them. But I always offer them at least 5 to stay in the uncertainty principle so that they can imagine. So I might say, sometimes our knees are shaking, or I feel like a pressure on the breast, or my head is heavy. But I offer them more so that they really can then decide one of those symptoms, or mostly then they find an own symptoms. Some body feeling, I wanted to say. Sometimes I even tell them, you know, there has been a kid who felt it in the chest just recently. I worked with a child, or I worked with a kid that feels like having a volcano here. So if they have no connection, I offer them more than one connection so that we can stay in the uncertainty principle, and especially because most of the kids then get their own picture, and I try them to have their own picture.
May I add something?
Yes.
That today for me was really helpful, like as the 7-year-old, it was really helpful when you ask, before asking where you feel it in your body, you ask, how does a sad face feel? Or what does it look like, right? Uh-huh. So when I put my face, like I connected with the feeling, it was easier for me to connect with the body, because as a 7-year-old, I don't know if I would have been able to tell you. But that transition that you did was really helpful. You know, like in these colors, where do you feel? And you're like, okay, the sad one, oh, the really sad one, okay. And how does that look? And then just like the feeling in my face, it was just like returning to the body. So that really helped.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add that.
Yeah. And it is really, you do it different from kid to kid. Other kids might tell you, all the time when I'm full of anxiety, my head is bumping. So sometimes they even explain us before we ask them. So this is again cooking without recipe, which is the great desafio. What's desafio in English? The great
challenge.
Creativity and spontaneity.
Yeah, exactly. Working with kids. I love the expression cooking without recipe, which comes from Martha. And when you work with kids, this is the only possibility. I would say it's time for the place for the next question. If somebody has another question,
I want to ask a question, Moni. I wonder, it's about the colors that you show it to Glenda. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I wonder, is there any reasons about why you choose those colors?
I tell you what, this was done, I had no reason at all. This was done by a 4-year-old girl.
Okay.
To tell you the truth, it's more than 20 years ago. But when I was 7+, one of my first clients, actually, it was a 4-year-old girl. And she, at this time, it was long before Brainspotting, she couldn't differentiate her feelings. So when we were playing with some dolls, and the doll fell down and she was laughing. And when something horrible happened, she was laughing. So she really couldn't identify her feelings due to her traumatic story. She had a very traumatic story. So I put this up to teach her at this time, how does it feel when you're here, and what is happening here, and what is happening here. And she gave me that painting at the end of the therapy. And I just made a photo out of it to use it for the SAT scale. So there's no special significance to any color. It's just made by a child. She decided blue for being sad or dark and getting light, but this was without influence. And I just love to have things which kids have. You have it, by the way, on the homepage. I showed you before, and you can make a photo of it and take it for your work. It was a present to me, so this is free for everybody. But you can also just use a little, especially when you are doing online work now. You can also just go there and do the three faces, like sad, middle, and smiling, and ask the child. So just be creative again.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Moni.
You're welcome. Let's see if there's some more questions. So if there are no more questions, I would continue a little bit. Let's do the following. Like last time, we had many questions in general. Are there general questions today?
Yeah, I have some comments. I was just thinking that when we do parts work on adults and the 7-year-old comes through, and this might be a great way to do parts work, and as if that 7-year-old is in that 47-year-old, and then using the same language and same drawing and same technique. I just didn't think of it that way before, but I thought that might be a wonderful way to really draw out that 7-year-old and really get to know the 7-year-old in the 47-year-old body.
Yeah, Nancy, this is absolutely true what you're saying. And if you do that, what I observe very often is adolescents, but also with grown-ups, that they really go back in the state of a 7-year-old, so that they regress in their language, in their acting. They even I had people in my office who took one of, as you see, I haven't got a lot of stuff for kids here, but I have some significant, and one is the bear here. So they were taking the bear while they were processing. It's really impressive if you do part work, how they become the child.
And it's very evident in Glenda when she accesses that 7-year-old. It could be part of hers, but it could be she's just accessing something else, as maybe a generic 7-year-old. But it's still so real, so authentic. So yeah, what came through was that parts work.
I just wanted to add that I am also a psychodramatist. So.
You get into the role, right?
Oh, yes.
I would like to add, when I did training in Atlanta, when you first came to the United States, I was able to be there and be a part of the practicum, and absolutely what you're tapping into, Nancy, you do channel those younger parts. Some of those experientials, I couldn't believe that even the imagery in my mind was of the younger part that I was connecting to, you know, a cartoon stick figure, more simple of what was relevant at that time. And I wasn't even trying to do anything but just, you know, totally engage in the experience. And it just happens. It's amazing. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And it's now, I want to add something, Nancy. If we have kids who are traumatized, automatically, if they have loving parents or caretakers, they are traumatized too. Yes. So if I can talk honestly, if something happened to one of my 3 girls, I have 3 girls, which was really unfair, all my feelings of being treated unfair is coming up. And it's still like that, although they are old. They have to learn so many things now. But so if you work with a grown-up, a parent or a caretaker of a kid in your office, and you work about the situation, what happened to the child, and you just say, and with your daughter or with your son, we were working with a symbol. And maybe let's find a symbol for you too. They might definitely find something they would have found in the age of the child in which the child is right now, which is highly interesting because they are identifying with it. And they already have their story. Or they go directly where the first time they felt unfairness or what injustice or whatever happened. But the interesting thing is, like working with Glenda now, it would have been highly interesting, and even Glenda, that would be even an interesting question. If I would have asked you, what do you think if I also ask with work with your mom and your dad? If I give them a session too.
I would have been really happy because I was really sad that they were sad. Right? When you asked me why can't you cry, and I said, well, if I cried, they feel sad too. It would have been great.
And that's what I'm observing so often. When kids are traumatized, they also take care of their parents. Because the parents, we are helpless when something happens to our children. So working with that, even just in one single session, not in front of the kid. I'm not doing brain spotting in the grown-up way in front of a young child. I would never do that. But just talk about it. I would like to give a session to your mom or your dad. They jump up off the chair and say, yes, do that. And then you go to that part just concerning the trauma your kid suffered from. And they go to the inner part or inner child, as you said.
It's so amazing. It's healing for the entire family, the system, the family system.
Yeah, yeah. And with adolescents, Martha is really good at that. With adolescents, you can even do it in one session with the parents and the child. And I've also done this in the last weeks with one father and one son, for example. And due to the situation they were going through, I asked them to find a spot. And the father was looking there and the boy was looking over there. And they both had their spot, but they didn't see each other. It was interesting because they were back to back looking to their spots, but they had their spots and they could so easily talk with each other, not looking into each other's face. It was an interesting dynamic, but it also works with adolescents very well if you work on 2 or 3 spots with each one has his or her spot. And it goes through the topic, what are their concerns? Yeah.
Right. Awesome.
Awesome. It is. Any other general questions for today?
There is another question coming up. Would you do anything different with a teen who seems to dissociate during brain spotting?
Actually, I think I like that question, because before I did brain spotting, I was afraid of dissociation. Now I understood that dissociation is a form of self-protection. And if we have a teen and we have a brain spot here, for example, and they are dissociating, I would just be present and wait where it goes. Because most of the time, if they go through the dissociation, they're getting a much better feeling. It's like processing in the brain spotting. Obviously, this question leads me to my responsibility as a therapist. If I had a teen where I know there's a danger of suicide or getting out of himself, I would have, especially if I work online, I would like to have somebody in the back to be there. So it depends again the situation. If the teenager is only for him or herself and they are in a situation of maybe thinking about suiciding, I might evaluate only to work on a resource spot. But generally, I'm honestly saying that whenever they dissociate, they are coming out by themselves. And it's an enormous healing when they experience on the brain spot, I can dissociate and come out by myself. Because then the trauma story changed. Because they came out themselves. I don't know who put this question. Tony, maybe you just put on your microphone to know if this was a good explanation for you, or if there's any more anxiety concerning dissociation.
Yeah, my kids are loud in the background, so I'm trying to keep them like around. But no, it is helpful, because I found the brain spotting to be very effective. And the what I butt up against is when there is this struggle with connecting to the body, almost like and maybe it's my own stuff coming up that I have to process, is I worry that I'm wasting their time by just allowing them to sit there, dissociate, and not I feel as though I'm not supporting them, even though we're in this safe container. And then it's just quiet and sitting there. And at the end, that the processing piece can be difficult, because that mind, body, and connection piece isn't there for them yet. So even the processing piece is a challenge, because they didn't feel that they were able to experience that. Just the separateness is so strong for them. So it is helpful to hear you say just to continue to allow that dissociation to process through itself, and over time it will begin to feel more powerful. Is my hope for them that it'll feel more powerful in that.
Yeah, I was just it's a good question. I had a case just recently, an adolescent, and I'm answering now yours and Nancy's, or I'm coming back to Nancy's question about part work. So his symptom was, without that he cannot be identified, he has one anxiety symptom, a very strong anxiety symptoms. So I had him imagine on the pointer, let's put the pointer there that you can see how his anxiety would look like. And it went all on his head. I had this pointer, and I had him to get in contact with the anxiety. So the anxiety turned to be like a little person sitting on the pointer and not being nice. And during the session, more and more, he could get into contact with this anxiety. So this was a part of him he completely dissociated. He could not tell his feelings. He only had body feelings when it comes up. And at the end of the session, I asked him, as it was online, I asked him if he could draw a picture of the man, how he looked in the beginning of the session and after going through all his stories he gave me and feelings, and how it looks in the end. And there was a lot of dissociation, and this person changed completely. But then he said, when I draw it, and I made him draw it, and I bring up because I actually gave it into the PowerPoint, I want to show you this, the difference. But the interesting thing, what he said was, at the end, that's me, here it is. He said, actually, in the end, when I asked him to do the end picture, oops, sorry. Can you see that here, the two men? So the one who is looking down is the anxiety person sitting on the pointer. And then when it came to drawing the other person, how he felt in the end, he said, well, I just have to draw myself because that's me. So this was the example of completely integration. He could integrate whatever he was going through. And it was funny, Nancy, that you asked the question about part work, because this is coming a lot with adolescents. And I use it a lot with adolescents in these times. And I loved this guy having this picture, having done this picture. He did them in 2 minutes, imagine. So when he did the first, the anxiety here was a man leaning on the wall and looking to the floor and having those pullovers with the where you cover your head and not really being present. And the other person was like opening up, but it was him. So this was fascinating for me to see how they do integration while dissociating, and having him drawn this at the end. And then I said to him, oh, what a wonderful picture. I would love to show this in the presentation today in the afternoon, but I would need your signature. And he said, no, you don't need that. Just show it to them. So he allowed me. Mm-hmm. Good, Tony. Is it answered for you? Good.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Yeah, Carrie Martin, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, I was just going to ask if you ever consider using one-eyed or any of the other like phase 2 interventions that to help activate or resource a child.
Yes, you mean the classes or the close and distance? Yeah, I do. And I love the classes for boys, adolescent boys. It's super cool.
One of the things they suggested at trainings that we could do while we're online is even send them pirate patches.
Exactly. Or how do you call those things you take in winter when it's cold?
Headband.
Hmm?
Headband.
Yeah.
Headband.
Yeah, you can also use a hairband like that if you don't have the glasses. And you can, if the kids have glasses, they can put, they can just that one side. So there are many ideas. Just ask them. They are super creative. And just for you, Carrie, and for all the others concerning distance and coming closer, when you have seen me with Glenda, now having her, I asked her if she could have something, and she took out her chicken. And I asked her to put it exactly there where she had the feeling, and she had it closer. And then this was a C-axis without guiding it. And if you have clients, it really works well if you have the pointer and you ask them to take something like a pen or something and just move it towards them, for example. And you can stay here with the pointer. Before we go to the next questions, I would like you, Glenda, we were talking about this in the very beginning when I was presenting you, to maybe talk about your ideas of resourcing. Here it is.
Oh, okay. I love the dog. Well, I have a few ideas, right? But sorry, I'll just tell you, we usually think of our senses as being only 5, right? But we actually have 7 senses, and the ones that we usually leave on the side are the vestibular, you know, like the way we move and how we feel, if we're moving forward, backwards, or to the sides, that's the ear, right? And also the proprioceptive sense, you know, like what we feel inside and what we perceive from the outside world too, right? So, but these 2 senses are also very important for regulation of the brainstem and the encephalon, right? So some of this resourcing can be using a blanket.
A PowerPoint that you can show it big. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So there is this blanket that you could use. You know, like I have, like we were talking about working with parts, right? When I work with clients, you know, adult clients who are working with parts, they usually come into the room and they go like this, right? And one of the great things from the blanket is that we can actually do as if we were having a deep tissue massage, but without pain, right? So we can ask them to actually, you know, like grab the blanket really tight and they can compress their bodies, right? So it's like if somebody was giving them a hug, right? And if you do have a blanket right now or a handkerchief or, you know, like something that's big enough to wrap around your arms and you can do this, that would be great because you would be feeling right now, right? And it just immediately regulates the nervous system, right? So that's very important to, you know, maintain that optimal arousal to work, right? The other thing too with kids and adults who are having a lot of anxiety, you know, if you also have a blanket, and these are tricks for moms and dads, right? That they can, you know, like tie this around like this. And if they, I'm looking for my other blanket, I'm sorry. I have like all my toys around here, my things. They can also use another little blanket, sorry, the other way. And they can tie around like this. And this is incredibly soothing. It just gives the body this sensation of you're being held, right? I think it has to do when we were babies and, you know, like we were crying and we were like, oh, you know, like discombobulated, and mom, dad, or caregiver came and took us in their arms and just held us next to them, right? It just gives that sensation of, okay, I'm safe, I'm structured, right? Somebody's holding me, so that's very important. Oops. The other thing I love the blankets because you can also use them to sort of, you know, like you could also put the resource in the blanket with the kids. You can imagine that, like my bird, right? When I was playing the 7-year-old, I can imagine like we can play that this was the wings and the bird can cover me, right? So I'm like protected if that was necessary, right? If you know, like I don't think it was necessary in the demo that we did, but if at some point I was really doing that and I was, you know, like being hyper aroused or hypo aroused, right? And not being able to work properly, that would have been something good to work with. And one last thing, this, you know, like heavy weighted thingies are also really good. You know, like we can put them on our heads, we can put them in the bags. Something that's very useful is to put them in the wrists or the ankles too. And while we're working with the children or adults, if they can actually just put their hands, you know, like in front, you know, like you can't, I'll move this. We can do this, right? And my hands are there. And that feeling of just being grounded and held is incredible, right? So this is, I found this to be very useful when I work with people, you know, like in presence. But now that we're on the internet, it works well too. Okay.
That's wonderful, Glenda. And as I told in the beginning, one of the attendees of your webinar is a director of a school, of a big school in Paraguay. The next morning, she called all her teachers and told them, tell kids they need a blanket when we do the online sessions. And she really used it. And she also talked about the virtual hack. Did you talk about?
Oh yes, yes. This is another proprioceptive, right? So if you want, we can do it. I cannot see everybody, but you know, like the idea is that if you do it with me, money, that would do it. So we put our elbows up, and then we are like pushing them away, right? But at the same time, we put our hands around them, around the elbows, and with our hands we hold them together while we push the elbows away, right? So you have that feeling of, again, being held, right? And then this is a way we're saying bye and goodbye now with my clients and also with the people who I do supervision with. And then we put it to our tummies and we press it, and it's like, this is my hug, you know, for you, and this is your hug for me, right? So we're hugging each other even though we're not in presence.
Yeah. And I must show, if you talk about that, because I'm sure everybody can find it, just give me a second. Because I made a screenshot from it yesterday. Glenda was sending this wonderful picture. I will show it to you.
Yes.
Which is the virtual hack.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you, Moni.
That's right. So there's, in the meantime, I was reading a little bit, and there's one question I don't understand really well from an iPad. How would you differentiate between the angst being integrated or that it overtook the child at the end of the session? Maybe the child was just identified with the protector and you were eventually just direct accessing it. Who can this person just speak up that I can understand the question correctly? I think this person is not there anymore. Okay, fine. So any other questions?
I can talk.
Oh,
Yeah.
there she is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the video is not activating because it says I cannot start it because the host has been deactivating it. So therefore it's just my voice. Somehow it doesn't work. So yeah, I was just wondering about if this is really integration. So just to the question is, how can I differentiate when you're saying this is integration at the end, and perhaps there's just the protector identified with, oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
You are still talking about this picture of the painting of the...
Yeah, the example that you said in the session you had with a child. Yes. And the angry protector. Well, and therefore I thought, yeah, maybe I would be interested in how do I differentiate in between a protector, if it's just the protector at the end that I see and direct access at the end, or if it's real integration. So how would you differentiate this, even with telehealth?
Honestly, I love your question, and for this specific case, it was the process who allows me to say, when the child at the end said, oh, I just have to paint me, that I felt like the enthusiasm I got and the answer I got after the process was, now it's integrated. And it stopped being anxiety quite at the beginning. So the anxiety was just the initial, the beginning, and then it turned into many other feelings and trauma reactions. So I had the feeling, and I never can sign up for that, But my feeling was when he said, I just have to paint me, like now it's integrated because it got a part of him. He could identify with the person on the pointer himself. What was not in the first picture. But we will never be able to, in general, we will never be able to give you 100% certificate now it's integrated or not integrated. So I can't tell for sure. But
so you would, sorry.
Yeah, just put your question.
I just thought, so we might check the next session though, how it's working. So therefore you can see if that's integration or if it's just a change. That's a part of integration as well, if he identifies with the angry protector. So,
exactly.
or the angst protector, so that's the same. But nevertheless, we can check in though.
We can check in, and the other thing is, do we really need to know if it has a positive effect, or if it has not a positive effect, we will continue working with it?
Right.
We never know. Sometimes, and that's the uncertainty, sometimes things are helping in a completely other life area than people expect it to help.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So maybe the answer I like most is it really important to know? Or just go and see what stays there to be worked on? Okay?
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome.
Of the birds in the background, wherever you are.
Yeah, it was, she's sitting in the countryside. It was the birds, I think. There's one more question. After a session with a teen with lots of dissociation, they have no interest in brainspotting. It's been months. What are you doing to continue to encourage them to do brainspotting after the uncomfortable silence? I don't, Katie, can you maybe sign up? Is Katie there with the video? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we can see you.
So I've had, and it's been 2 of them that have a lot of disassociation and previous trauma, and they'll do like a session or 2, and then they're like, Katie, I want to come in and see you, and I want to do cognitive behavior therapy, and I want to talk, but don't even try. I don't want to do brain spotting. And one of them, big fight or flight responses. And I'm wondering, like, when you talked about it earlier with, you just follow the tail of the comet, which was, I really feel I was doing, they just don't want to sit there and feel uncomfortable. And so how do you keep them engaged?
That's a good question, Katie. Let me go to the very beginning. When adolescents like them, I tell them in the beginning that brainspotting might be trauma confrontative and that they might feel a lot, but that the idea is it should be like a wave. During the process, come really strong and then be much less intense at the end. So cognitively, I make them aware that we are going to work and that it's not easy work, that sometimes it costs us, but that the output most of the times, I'm never promising something, but that I have the experience that the output is fine. So with heavily traumatized adolescents, I really do the explanation in the beginning to make them aware.
So a good setup.
Exactly. And if they don't like to come back to it, but my feeling is that it worked so well I offer them creative ways. Like, you know what, if this was hard for you, why don't we put the picture on the brain spot and you just put colors on it, for example. And we need to talk about it. Just put colors on it and let's see what's going to happen. As long as it helps, as long as it heals. Or whatever's coming.
I'm more. So creativity there. Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope it helps.
I'm gonna try a little more creativity there. It helps.
Yeah, and find out the creativity of your client, what they like to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm just looking if there's any other questions.
No other questions that I can see.
No more question, aren't there? Okay, if somebody has a question, they can still speak up. Otherwise, I would just look. I think we have talked about all I prepared, and actually our time is also over. So this was these were the resources. I found the pictures to Glenda's description. And we talked about that. And again, what I showed you the last time already is our presence, which is really important. It also brings me back to my Paraguayan group yesterday. They were telling me that the people in Paraguay are still very, very shy using the internet, but they keep in touch. So they call their clients and they just keep in touch with them and they are present. And I try to teach them that this is maybe the most important part of the Brainspotting right now. If they have no other means, just to be present and to be with them and make them feel free to tell whatever is coming up, or just give them the feeling I'm there. So we can be like a solid rock in troubled waters as therapists. And at the very end, I put you our 2 emails address. So I put Glenda's email address here. Glenda, is it correct? Yeah.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Moni.
So let me just finish here and say thank you to all of you, and say a special thank you to Glenda, to Ecuador. This was wonderful. It was wonderful working with you. And maybe we repeat it. I will put it up on Facebook. We can also, please sign up on the list. If something is going on, I might send it out with a tiny newsletter. I'm not the person who writes every other week a newsletter. Don't worry about that. If you get 2 or 3 a year, this is a lot. So thank you, Nancy, for overtaking the co-host. This was great. Great.
Thank you, Monika. Thank you, Glenda.
And enjoy working with the young ones, whatever age they are, or with the young parts in the grown-ups. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye to everybody.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica.